Hey, 50 Cent, why you lying telling them people you sold all them shoes? Stop lying. You filed $100 million bankruptcy when you sold them last time. You got an endorsement deal. Same way you don't discuss your publisher because you don't own no publisher.
Rick Ross went public and called out 50 Cent for lying about selling out his shoes, then took it a step further and declared that 50 Cent is going broke. One of the longest running rivalries in hip-hop history just turned into a battle over sneakers, money, and who still has the power to move culture in 2026. Ross took to Instagram and publicly declared that nobody wanted those shoes. What happened next made him regret every word he said. Stay with us because what happened on August 20th changed the entire conversation. But real quick, if you're serious about winning in the rap game, I put everything I know into one ebook. I'm talking how to actually grow an audience from zero, how to get labels reaching out to you with deals, and even how to get paid in this industry without ever touching a mic. And nah, it's not too late. People love to say the wave passed. It didn't. New artists and new hustlers are blowing up every single day, and the ones eating are the ones who started now instead of waiting. It's only $14.99. That's a few cups of coffee for a blueprint that can change how you move in this game forever. Links in the description bio. Go grab it. Then let's get back to the video. Yo, what's good, fam? Today, we're breaking down how Rick Ross went after 50 Cent's sneaker comeback, why the G-Unit G6 became a battlefield, and how the sales result flipped the whole argument on its head. Let's get into it. To understand why this sneaker moment hit so hard, you have to go back to where it all started. The year is 2003. 50 Cent is at the absolute peak of his commercial power. Get Rich or Die Tryin' has just dropped and become one of the biggest debut albums in hip-hop history, moving over 8 million copies in the United States alone. He is everywhere. The radio, the streets, the conversation, every magazine cover, every playlist. At that exact moment, he partners with Reebok to launch the G-Unit G6 sneaker. This was not just a celebrity endorsement deal where somebody slapped their name on an existing shoe. The G6 was a low-top court-inspired sneaker with white leather and suede construction, G-Unit branding on the heel, a signature icy outsole, and a red, white, and blue colorway that became inseparable from the visual identity of 50 Cent and his crew at the peak of their cultural run. The original run sold out quickly. 50 Cent would later claim the Reebok partnership generated $80 million for him, and by any measure the collaboration was one of the most successful rapper sneaker deals of its era, directly competing with Jay-Z's S. Carter line with Reebok that had launched around the same time. The two deals became a kind of East Coast hip-hop footwear rivalry all by themselves, with both artists proving that a rapper's name on a sneaker could move serious units in a legitimate retail environment. The G-Unit sneaker was also part of something larger. In the early 2000s, hip-hop artists were aggressively moving into fashion, footwear, and consumer products in a way the industry had never seen before. Jay-Z was doing it, and 50 Cent was proving that a rapper from Queens could walk into Reebok and come out with a deal that would generate tens of millions of dollars from consumers who were not just buying music, but buying an identity. The G6 was a tangible piece of 50 Cent's cultural moment, something fans could literally wear on their feet. For the generation that grew up in 2003, those sneakers are not just shoes. They are a memory attached to a specific chapter of their lives. And the thing about memories attached to sneakers is that they age differently than memories attached to music. Music you can stream at any moment. Sneakers you have to track down, wait in line for, pay resale on. That scarcity makes the emotional connection even stronger. The G6 was not just a product people wanted in 2026. It was a product people had been thinking about wanting for years, asking about, searching for on eBay, hoping would come back. That built-up demand is exactly the kind of pressure that produces a 2-hour sellout, which is exactly why the 2026 revival carried real weight. Decades after the original partnership, 50 Cent and Reebok announced the return of the G-Unit G6 as a faithful one-to-one recreation of the 2003 original. The release was scheduled for August 20th, 2026, at 10 in the morning Eastern Time through Reebok's website and select retailers including JD Sports and Finish Line. The price was set at $130 per pair. The design was preserved exactly as it had been in 2003, including the white leather upper, the gray suede toe cap, the red, white, and blue accents, the G-Unit heel embroidery, and the icy rubber outsole. Reebok CEO described the comeback as a way to honor a defining early 2000s sneaker. 50 Cent himself said the fans had never really let the shoe go and that people had been asking for it to come back for years. But nostalgia alone does not guarantee a sellout. A sneaker revival is a commercial bet on whether the emotional connection people have to a product from the past is strong enough to make them spend real money in the present. Plenty of comeback releases have come and gone without making a dent. The question hanging over the G6 revival was simple. Did 50 Cent's brand still carry enough weight in 2026 to make consumers open their wallets for a shoe that first came out over 20 years ago? Rick Ross decided to answer that question before the market got a chance to. In the weeks leading up to the August 20th release, Ross took to his Instagram story and laid into the sneaker comeback with everything he had. He called the shoes ugly. He questioned why anyone in the current era of hip-hop would want to put G-Unit sneakers on their feet. He predicted the shoes would not sell and would eventually end up at Costco at a discounted price, which in sneaker culture is one of the most brutal predictions you can make. A shoe that ends up at Costco has failed so completely that the brand had to liquidate at a discount warehouse instead of moving through legitimate retail channels. Ross was saying the market would reject these shoes entirely. He told 50 to give Lloyd Banks his own high top instead, a dig implying that 50 Cent's commercial focus was misplaced. He turned the entire sneaker launch into evidence for a larger argument he had been making, that 50 Cent was no longer the commercial force he once was. But Ross did not stop at the shoes. He went after the bigger picture. He accused 50 Cent of lying about how well his business was performing. And critically, he was not just talking about the 2026 launch. He was questioning the entire narrative 50 has built around the sneaker line historically, accusing him of fabricating his sales metrics going all the way back to the original Reebok run. In Ross's framing, the claim that the G-Unit line moved millions and generated $80 million was part of a long pattern of exaggerating success. He framed the sneaker revival as a symptom of someone who was going broke and trying to grab at old glories to stay relevant. He brought up a Shreveport film studio project that 50 had allegedly borrowed money for, questioning whether that debt had been paid back. The financial angle was the sharpest part of the attack. 50 Cent has spent years positioning himself as a major businessman, not just a rapper. His television empire through Power and its spin-offs, his production company, his branding deals, and his investments have all been part of a public narrative that he has moved far beyond just making music. Ross was targeting that narrative directly. By framing the sneaker comeback as desperation rather than savvy, he was not just talking about shoes. He was trying to crack the foundation of 50 Cent's entire post-music brand identity. This is the nature of their feud and always has been. 50 Cent and Rick Ross have been at war for years, and the conflict has never been about one specific incident. It is a sustained competition over credibility, authenticity, business success, and cultural relevance. The feud has produced diss tracks, social media wars, interviews where each man dissects the other's career, and a running scoreboard of who sold more, earned more, and accomplished more. Earlier in the summer of 2026, the feud had already been burning hot over Ross's album Set in Stone. 50 Cent had initially claimed the album moved only about 2,000 units in its first week, before official figures arrived showing around 20,000 album equivalent units. Ross pushed back, pointing to the fact that 10 of his previous 11 solo albums had cracked the Billboard 200 top 10 and 5 had reached number 1. The argument went back and forth on social media, and neither side was willing to give the other anything. And then the sneakers dropped directly into the middle of that ongoing war, giving both men a new battlefield at exactly the moment neither could claim a clean victory on the album front. Ross's prediction created a very clear stake in the ground. He had said publicly and on the record that the G-Unit sneakers would not sell, that they would end up discounted at a warehouse store, and that the whole move was evidence of financial decline. That kind of prediction either ages beautifully or it ages terribly, and there was going to be very little middle ground. The sneaker market was about to render a verdict. On August 20th, 2026, at 10 in the morning Eastern, the G-Unit G6 went on sale. What happened next was the opposite of what Ross had predicted. Instead of sitting on digital shelves waiting for buyers who never came, the sneakers moved fast. Fans began reporting almost immediately that their sizes were already gone. The Reebok website sold through its available inventory in less than 2 hours. Some fans reported their sizes had disappeared within minutes of the drop going live. The G6 was pushed straight into the resale market, where pairs were showing up on StockX and GOAT. at prices between $290 and $337, more than double the original retail price of $130. The resale premium alone was a statement. Buyers who could not get a pair at retail were willing to pay a significant markup to get them, which is not the behavior of a market that does not want a product. A shoe that ends up at Costco does not end up on StockX at $290. Those are two very different outcomes, and only one of them happened. On the same weekend, 50 Cent had also popped up as a special guest at a Versus event featuring Joe and Donnell Jones, adding to his visibility at exactly the moment his sneakers were flying off the shelves. It was a perfect storm of good timing for 50 Cent, and an absolute disaster for anyone who had publicly staked their credibility on the shoes failing. The sellout did not prove every claim 50 Cent has ever made about his financial situation. It did not confirm the exact revenue generated because the total depends on inventory size, manufacturing costs, retailer splits, distribution expenses, and other business details that are not publicly disclosed. What it did prove specifically and concretely was this: consumers showed up on August 20th in large enough numbers to clear available inventory in under 2 hours at $130 a pair. That is a measurable fact, not a talking point. 50 Cent wasted no time using it. He posted a video on Instagram holding up the G-Unit sneakers and delivered the line that immediately spread across every platform: "Sold out, Fat Boy." That was the whole message. He did not need a long explanation. He pointed at the result and aimed it directly at Ross. 50 also credited New York specifically as the driving force behind the demand, and questioned whether Ross had any power in the city that 50 considers his home turf. The post was short, sharp, and designed to circulate as widely as possible, which it did. He also went back to one of the most reliable weapons in his arsenal against Ross, the correctional officer history. For years, one of the defining elements of 50 Cent's attacks on Rick Ross has been the fact that Ross worked as a correctional officer before his rap career. Ross's real name is William Leonard Roberts II, and his time as a prison guard in the early 1990s has been something 50 Cent has returned to repeatedly throughout their feud, because it directly challenges the street image Ross built his entire persona around. Ross's rap identity is built on the mythology of the Boss, a Miami drug lord lifestyle dripping in luxury and power. 50 Cent uses a correctional officer history to argue that the persona is fabricated, that the image Ross projects to the world is a constructed character rather than a genuine identity. Whether or not that criticism is fair is a separate debate. What matters to the documentary is that 50 consistently deploys it as his most personal attack, because it connects to the authenticity question that runs through all of Ross's music and brand. After the sneaker sellout, 50 was swinging the correctional officer angle with full momentum behind it. He had the business receipts now, and he had the personal insult, and he combined them into a social media barrage that kept the story alive for days. Then the album comparison turned the whole situation into a double blow for Ross. Set in Stone had released just a few weeks before the sneaker drop, and it had not performed the way a rapper of Ross's stature would want. It was moving around 20,000 album equivalent units per week, a number that 50 had already been weaponizing publicly before the sneaker conversation even started. For context, Ross has had 5 solo albums reach #1 on the Billboard 200, including Port of Miami, Triller, Deeper Than Rap, God Forgives I Don't, and Mastermind. His commercial track record across his catalog is genuinely strong, but 20,000 units in the streaming era, when 50 Cent is actively framing it as failure, is a difficult number to defend. And here's where the double blow lands. Ross had spent weeks talking about 50 Cent's declining relevance and failing business ventures, trying to position himself as the one who still had momentum. Then his album underperformed. Then the sneakers sold out in 2 hours. He was getting hit from both directions at the same time, on music and on business, which is exactly the worst position to be in when your whole argument is that the other guy is the one who is losing. The timing could not have been worse. 50 had already been clowning the album numbers. The sneaker sellout gave him a second receipt to hold up on the same weekend, and he used both of them. This is the dynamic that makes the feud so entertaining and so revealing about how hip-hop celebrity works in the modern era. Both men have built public identities that are essentially brands, and every business result, every album number, every product launch becomes potential ammunition. 50 Cent spent years after his initial music career building a reputation as a businessman first. Power and its spin-offs on Starz became a massive television franchise that generated not just viewer ratings, but genuine cultural conversation for years. He has been involved in production deals, distribution companies, branding partnerships, and other ventures that go far beyond what most rappers have ever attempted. His approach has always been to turn conflict into content and content into cash. The feud itself has arguably been one of his most valuable assets because it keeps him in public conversation even between projects. Rick Ross, on the other hand, built the Maybach Music Group into a legitimate label home that has developed real artists, expanded into restaurant investment with his Wingstop franchise stake, and created a personal brand around unapologetic luxury that has been consistent for nearly 2 decades. His influence as a tastemaker and his ability to bring artists into his orbit speak to a different kind of business intelligence. When two people who have both positioned themselves as successful entrepreneurs attack each other's commercial performance, the insults hit differently than they would between ordinary rap artists. They are not just competing over who has the better bars, they are competing over who has the better business. And they both know it, and their fans know it too. The G-Unit G6 sellout plugged directly into that competition because it provided a clean, simple result. No interpretation required. The shoes went on sale. They sold out in under 2 hours. That is the receipt. And in an era where social media allows the narrative around a product to be shaped before it even reaches consumers, 50 Cent now had a piece of evidence he could hold up every time Ross tried to return to the going broke argument. Ross had predicted Costco. The market delivered StockX resale at $250 plus. The deeper story here is about how sneaker culture and business credibility have become intertwined with rap identity in ways that would have been hard to imagine even 20 years ago. In 2003, a rapper selling shoes was notable but still relatively new. In 2026, it is expected artists are assumed to have businesses, clothing lines, partnerships, and revenue streams beyond music. When 50 Cent revived the G6, he was not just releasing a shoe. He was making a statement that his brand still resonates with consumers who have more options than ever. Ross tried to preemptively undermine that statement by shaping the story before the launch. The sellout rewrote the story before anyone could stop it. There is also a Y2K fashion resurgence happening across the culture right now, with early 2000s aesthetics coming back in clothing, sneakers, music, and visual culture more broadly. The G6 dropped at exactly the right moment to capitalize on that wave. A shoe that was already culturally significant is even more powerful when the broader fashion cycle is moving back toward the era it came from. Reebok itself had been building momentum across multiple collaborations and signings heading into 2026, with Jay-Z's S. Carter and other retros also generating attention. The G6 landed in a favorable environment, and the result reflected both 50 Cent's specific brand power and the broader moment happening in sneaker culture. None of this answers the bigger financial questions that neither side can actually verify from a social media post. Ross's claim that 50 Cent is going broke is not a financial audit. 50 Cent's sellout is not a balance sheet. A product selling through its available inventory in 2 hours tells you that demand exceeded supply for that specific release. It does not tell you what 50 Cent's net worth is, what his outstanding debts are, what his production company earns, or whether he is financially healthy across all of his business ventures. And Ross's album moving 20,000 units per week does not mean he is broke either. Album numbers are one measurement of one revenue stream in what for most major artists is a diverse portfolio of income sources. The financial insult has always been a fixture of celebrity feuds because audiences associate money with winning, and both men know how to use it. But the reality is that nobody watching a rap feud on Instagram has access to either man's actual financial records. What both sides have is public performance, public perception, and whatever receipts they can hold up to make the other person look bad. On August 20th, the receipt 50 Cent got was a very good one. Ross's claim about going broke may or may not reflect anything real about 50 Cent's financial picture. What it definitely reflects is that Ross made a prediction about consumer behavior, and the consumers disagreed loudly and quickly. What the sneaker controversy does tell us is that the feud is still very much alive and still capable of creating genuinely viral moments. When one rapper publicly predicts that another rapper's product will fail, and the product then sells out in less than 2 hours, the reversal is immediate, measurable, and embarrassing in a way that a diss track cannot quite replicate. Music is subjective. Sales figures are not. Go back to the beginning and run through the whole thing. Tony Yayo accidentally lets the G6 revival news slip on his podcast before anything is officially announced. The announcement generates nostalgia and genuine consumer excitement across sneaker communities and hip-hop spaces. Coverage spreads. Ross sees the attention the sneaker is getting and decides to get ahead of it, taking to Instagram stories with his prediction of failure. He calls the shoes ugly. He says Costco. He tells 50 to focus on Lloyd Banks' high top. He brings in the Shreveport Film Studio loan as additional evidence of alleged financial trouble. He frames the entire business move as a man grasping at old relevance while his finances deteriorate. The stage is set. August 20th arrives, 10 in the morning Eastern. The G-Unit G6 goes on sale at $130 through Reebok, JD Sports, and Finish Line. Fans start reporting sold-out sizes within minutes. By midday, the Reebok website has cleared its inventory. The under 2-hour sellout gets confirmed. Pairs are on StockX and go at nearly 3 times retail. 50 Cent pops out at the Verzuz event the same weekend, riding a wave of visibility. He posts the video. Sold out, fat boy. The correctional officer jokes follow immediately. 50 credits New York for driving the demand. The album sales comparison gets added back into the argument. And Ross, who had planted his flag so firmly on the prediction that these shoes would fail, is left watching a resale market tell a completely different story. The scoreboard shifted on August 20th, and it shifted fast. At the end of the day, Rick Ross accused 50 Cent of lying about selling out his shoes and declared that 50 was going broke. Whether either of those claims reflects the actual financial reality of either man is something neither a sellout nor a streaming number can definitively answer. What the August 20th launch proved, specifically and concretely, is that 50 Cent can still create consumer demand around his name and his legacy. He can still put a product in the marketplace connected to a moment from over 20 years ago and have it disappear from shelves before most people even have lunch. The resale market told an even louder story, with pairs climbing to nearly 3 times retail price within hours of the drop. Ross predicted Costco. The market delivered StockX. That gap between the prediction and the reality is exactly what makes this chapter of their feud so memorable, and exactly why 50 Cent will be referencing it for as long as the rivalry continues. In modern hip-hop, business success has become ammunition, numbers have become insults, and a sneaker release can suddenly become the latest battlefield between 2 rappers who have been trying to embarrass each other for years. August 20th belonged to one side of that battlefield. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Did Ross walk into this one, or does he still have a point? Let us know and tap in for more breakdowns like this one.